Hello everybody, it's Phil the Miniature Model Maker coming to you in this video with Gundam Artifact Phase 5 Model 25, the O. We are doing our Let's Build of this today. And if you like my Gundam content, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Comments are especially useful and important to me personally because they let me engage with the people who are consuming my content and let me know what I should and should not do, if I can change things, or just to talk to people about these artifacts because so few people seem to be aware of them. So that's a big deal. And if you're into Warhammer 40,000, I have a couple playlists going on. I'm currently in the middle of my Stillmania September project where I'm working on my 2,000 point Tau army. So don't be afraid to hit that as well. So let's get to it. The build guide for Gundam Artifact Phase 5 Model 25, the O. And our first step here is right leg. And again, like the Hyakushiki last time, I have pre-cleaned all of these in preparation for gluing. And we're gonna see at the end how that is going to affect things, the sanding and all of that, when I put the ink on it. And this is one I have really been looking forward to. And hopefully we'll get everything right. So let's look at our instructions here. That needs to go in first and then there. And those two parts go together. And there, do we have any? Yes, we have order of operations. 1, it goes into there, and then 2. Part 41 is little teeny tiny little thruster, and they go flying just like that did, and I don't even know where that went. Is this it? This is it. Whoo, that was lucky. That's why we keep our floors clean when we're building artifacts. Gonna put that in there for now. So yes, lesson, take that as an object lesson. And we've got our Tamiya here. Now this is a blind build. I have not built this before. I have not even really looked at the instructions other than to check parts. So we will kind of experience this whole thing together. Oh, that needs a bit more. Now, one thing I'm finding on this current phase of artifacts is at times it is hard to tell what is and is not a detail versus a sprue cut. Some of these aren't. Yeah, okay, so this, on this half of the leg here, next to this tube, there is a raised part. It kind of looks like a sprue connection from some angles and not in others, so I left that undone just to be sure, and we lucked out. Now for those folks who are inclined to comment, I do have 2 of these, and I'm going to do a detail build of the other one where I take the time to really clean everything up, do all of the gap filling and things. This was cleaning this took 3 hours. So we're currently on a 3 hours plus build. And here, okay, so the pegs on part 47, are a little bit large. You may want to trim them down a bit. And let's see, there we go. I can even zoom this in just a bit. Let me go ahead and do that. It's the setup I have for streaming these is slightly different than what I use for the builds. And there we go. I do most of the cleaning and other things on stream. Alright, so that is that over on Twitch. And then step 2 is part 42. And that's our little U. Yes, so this is where the leg is going to connect to the body. Right here, there's a little peg and slot hole, which is nice. I always have to hand it to Bandai's engineers. They design these things so well. And I don't have any affiliation with Bandai. I'm just sincerely appreciative and amazed at their consistent attention to detail and attention to quality on the design of these parts. Alright. Looking here. Let's go ahead and... Okay, I'm going to try something real quick. So if I were doing the detail build on this, I would probably leave this part separate so I could paint everything, get all these details and everything in there, and then attach the leg parts after painting. So I would be assembling this, the internals of this, putting everything else like this foot together, and then painting that separately, leaving it all on its own. But because this is a complete speed build, not speed build, blind build for tabletop level, we're not going to worry about that too much, but we are going to be careful putting this part on there. So that's part 41. There's a tab for what looks like armor. Yep, part 51, and then this. Okay. Part 51 is you. Can I put this on there without glue and have it stay? Yes. So now you can kind of see what I mean with this. The internals are going to get covered up as far as priming and painting is concerned, but it's going to be visible enough from various angles that it would be worth doing separately. And I'm also going to give this a little piece of sandpaper real quick. And this is 1000 grit. I just want to get this mold line done. Okay. And it's exciting to me. I'm seeing more and more people doing Gundam Assemble paints and builds lately in English, which is pretty awesome for me. Okay, so that was part 51. And this is a kind of delicate connection. So I would clean it well. Now that I'm noticing there are lot 1, 2, 3 sprue marks, molding marks here. I wasn't sure if those were going to be spacers. Sometimes they'll mold spacers and things on the inside to increase tension, but I'm seeing now they're just mold marks. So that's going to require some going in with something to clean it up after. Or do it now. Do it before you attach it. Okay, that's part 51. Part 44 is this armor. And that's the same thing. So we're going to take a moment and sand the inside of this out. Now these mold marks aren't a defect in design. They're simply an artifact of the molding process, the injection of the plastic into the mold itself. There we go. And that goes in like so. Okay. Okay, looking at this now, we have our foot separate with a pretty good connection. So I'm thinking we could go ahead and, for a tabletop standard, go in and get a fair amount of this painted up to a base coat at least. So that's not awful. Just don't glue the foot on. That'll get in the way. And I did end up getting a little bit heavy with the glue on one of these, on this part here, part 42. So it's seeped a bit. There we are. Yeah, and I can see areas here where it needs to be cleaned up more. But so far, so good. We had much more difficulty with some of the other parts and on other models. Okay, 46, 43 and 46. This is 43. This is this 46? Yes it is. 43 and 52. Here we are, 43 and 52. And there's a piston that's on its own for the moment. Be careful with that. They're delicate. And the pegs on this part are tight, which is great for push fit, not so great for glue. Yeah, trim the pegs down on these leg parts. And looking at it, this looks to me like misalignment on these parts, which may go away if you trim the tabs. May possibly just cut them off entirely, but it looks like it's probably going to need some significant sanding and evening out. Okay, there's that. Now, 46 is the front of the foot. That's the back. Here's the front. And like so. Okay, so they are saying something like this. Okay, so it's going to go around, and there are rectangular pegs in the front. And this flat edge of this piston should fit around in this front. So we need to be a bit careful with that. But you go up and around. We're going to put a little bit of glue in here, see if that'll lubricate the movement a bit. And then push, make sure that the front of the piston pops into that square there. And then we push. Give it a little bit of pressure just to solidify the parts. And it looks like this. We're going to just take the foot, turn it upside down into part 45. Fit it in. It's almost all the way in. I'm going to put my glue in. And push. Alright, so if you have the misalignment issue in this foot internal section, clean that off before you put either of these parts on, or have spin blades to be able to do that, but I would suggest sanding it. It'll be a lot easier. And now we just put the bottoms on. Careful of your piston when you're pushing these in. Alright, and there's a tab here that's going to go into this slot, so we can put a bit of glue in there as well. That's a nice reinforcement touch. So I'm going to make sure that this peg is set, and okay, there we are. And then we just put a little bit of cement there. And push. There we go. The foot is secure. And we can just pop it in. Okay, so here's something to note. Wait for the cement on the foot to cure before before trying to attach it to the leg, because it's moving. So I'm going to just go ahead and push that back, make sure we're even, and let those parts stay like that. For a leg, that was pretty good. Let's go ahead and repeat the process. And I am going to first, before anything else, find my little thruster in here. And glue that on. I don't want to risk it flying out and getting lost. Here we go. Okay, now we can do that. Part, foot, armor, foot, armor, foot. Okay. So it's been a week, almost two maybe, since these arrived at my place, which means there's a potential for you guys to have them. I did check. So originally when I did my unboxing video, I was telling people that New Type had the 5-piece set available soon. And I checked a day or two after, and it was available. I called them for confirmation, didn't get any response. I emailed them for confirmation, didn't get any response, and I checked today, and it is now out of stock. So I don't know of any other place currently in the United States where you can get the Phase 5, at least in the 5-piece. Check over on Big Bad Toy Store to see if they still have it. It's currently September 3rd. Oh, and I put way too much cement on there. Well, that's fine. We'll clean it all up. But I'm thinking the availability of these this time is bad. It's not. What the heck? Okay, so this is parts 64 going into 74, and it's not wanting to even out. That's not good. So pegs, just always, as good practice, file your pegs down just a bit. Otherwise you'll end up having to do repair. Thankfully this is going into the body, but that armor is going to cover here, not up there. So that's going to look janky. So now I have to hold this for a second while it cures, so I don't get glue marks or just stretched sprue everywhere between these two parts. Otherwise it would look really, really bad. And the video I was watching just finished. Here we go. Okay. Alright, so that's going to be a thing. Part 74, part 64. Make sure that they're flush before you cement them. And I'll tell you now, I am very glad I have duplicates of these. Because this is... as much as I love these blind builds, and I do, I love making them. I love helping people have more success with their kits, teaching them, all that. But for a once a year release, I would personally prefer to spend a lot more time making sure these parts are just right. Okay, so this is 72 and 63. And thankfully, having the duplicates, I can I can go back. I can both make content and help folks and have my own private collection. And again, I ask this, please comment below and tell me how interested you would be in seeing 10, 12, 15 hour builds. Just building, not painting. Where I go through and record every detail step, every gap fill, every scribe. All of that. I would really like to know. If that's something people want to see, then I'll record it. If it's not, then I won't. Okay. And again, like the other one, we're going up and over and then gently sliding that in. And popping that down and pushing. So it's a 3-step process. Put this in, twist, make sure the piston is on the inside of this, and then push it down. And then you secure your piston in case it breaks. And a lot of this securing is because I want to put these on the tabletop and they're fairly delicate. If you're just using them as display models, you may not need to go as far as I'm going. What's up with... Oh, that's right, because we got to put these on. Alright, now make sure that this is a secure, flat fit. You go in there, come on. We want to push you in a little bit more. Okay, so it'll be hard to see here, but the heel portion of it, or actually that's the toe portion of it, is slightly further down than the heel portion. So that'll require a bit of modification too. And there we are. Those are done. Look at that. Proper prior preparation prevents problems during performing. And there's another little bit more saucy way to say that as well, but I'm finding that this preparation is really helping. Okay, so our steps here. It says step 1 is to glue these shoulder mounts into the torso and then glue these shoulder adapters into the body. I'm going to disagree with that. I'm going to say it's smart to go ahead and get first just try looking at the peg on the inside of part 9. There's a tab that's aiming towards the front to make sure that it aligns, and these coils go towards the rear. So you'll end up with something like that. But going back to the shoulders, I think it'll be wise to, as I said in the unboxing, make sure that these are in with the torso but glue them into the arms rather than gluing them into the torso at this time, because the connection for the arm is tiny. The connection for the torso is large, relatively large. So you can use it to hold the arm while you're painting. And it'll be easier to get into the torso in the future rather than trying to get this attached to the inside of the arm with the arm built. So we're going to leave those there for now. So our next step is getting parts 79 and the other one glued into the body. And again, the torso here has tabs that go here on these, so you can do your dry fit. This is the rear. There's your fit. So the peg slot looks like it's going down. Plop, and that fits in nicely. Let's do the other one. And be gentle. This is a flight hazard. You might pop out of the area, the hole, and go flying. So put it in gently. There you go. And just a little bit of glue to lubricate and to hold it steady, because our body is going to do the majority of the securing. There we are, like that. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out, put the glue on the inside here. Try and keep it away from the outside part there, so it's a little bit cleaner. And again, things in the back, and push. Very easy. Where's my knife? Do just a little bit of cleanup here, and I'm using the back of the blade just to kind of do a almost mold line scrape. There we go. Oop. Oop, 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 oop. I thought so. I've got to put this in. Here we are. Now we can slot that in. Much better. And I'm just putting ever so slight amount of cement on there. There's almost nothing on my brush on the applicator. I'm just letting capillary action of this very, very, very fine joint suck some up so we can get a slightly better seal there. There you go. That's better. So that was part 6 into part 9. These two shoulder pieces into part 12. And then this assembly going into this assembly. So make sure that these two are connected first and that these three are connected first. Don't let the order of operations here get you screwed up. Sometimes, sometimes the amount of detail they do is good, but they only go halfway. 1, 2, 3 would have been a bit more clear. Because you don't always know how these are going to fit together. It looked to me at first like this would fit into here after those were put together. But that was not the case. So point to learn. And I'm going to go ahead and glue the head into here. And just so you guys know, the face on this thing is teeny, 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 tiny. And make sure that it's aligned. There's a little tab at the back of the head along the neck that will sit on this part of the body to keep it in alignment, so it's not looking forward or looking back, tilting forward or back. And then part 6 goes up into there. And there's a slot for a tab, so there's the peg with a tab. They are going hard on the slots for all these things on this guy, this phase in general, and that's awesome. That is so good. Probably because these pieces are so dang small. Okay, and we're gonna put just a little bit more back behind it here. And then remove some of it. There's the torso. Look at that. And we're putting the shoulder mounts aside for a moment and get onto the right arm. And there are some very small pieces in here, part 18 and 17. So we're going to go ahead and do the gun first. Get those parts securely attached. This is part 18. And it too has a little bitty slot on the peg. And that's the back of the hand. right there. So be really careful with this cement. Don't overdo it on this one, or you're just going to drown the whole part. Okay, and the peg goes upwards towards the top of the gun. And just pops in there. So again, that's a 3mm piece. And then part 17 is this. And there's a slot for a tab that goes downward. And be gentle when you're doing this. There you go. If you're going to get extra glue on the part, do it on the bottom, because there is some molded detail on the front that'll be hard to clean. You'll need some very nice, very fine etching tools to get in there. But that's the hand and gun done. I still think this is the best gun in this phase, and one of the best they've ever done. It's gonna require some more detail work cleaning up, but that's so nice. Okay, now our order of operation here: parts 53, 54, 55 make our shoulder. So that's 55. '54 and 53. There's a small little piece right here on both of these that we'll need to be careful of. And what is this saying? This is telling us to put this together first and then slot part 52. So these two little pieces, little sections here, are the mount for this, so you don't cut those off. That would be bad. Not unrecoverable, but preferably you won't have to go that far. I'm hoping that I make all the mistakes for you, and that we're building these alongside each other together. Alright, and this is another part where if you're going to glue, get the majority of it from the inside. But there are nice flat surfaces, and the pegs Why do I not sand the pegs down on these Let's builds so we can look at it and see? So I can show you what sort of problems there will be to be aware of. There's some misalignment, which is okay, so part 54 is slightly higher than part 53. And now we slot part 55 right there. Okay. Here we go. Be gentle with it. Okay, this is going to be really hard to see. But there's this slot here and then two little pieces sticking out from the edge of this that are meant to hold, meant to go up against the outside of these. And this may require a tiny bit of sanding because, I mean, even minor warpage from molding, and the great majority, if not 100% of all of these issues are simply from molding. Because there we go. That just fit in beautifully with just a little bit of, just a little tiny bit of sanding. Wasn't much. Doesn't require much. And then not that one. And then we push. Okay. And it looks to me like the correct alignment of this is when this thing fits flush against this. That'll give you the most room in the arm there. Okay. Now we have the actual internals. Part 62 and part 60 says go together first. Looks like there's going to be misalignment here too. Maybe. We'll see what happens when I get the actual glue in. Okay, yes. Is this meant to be at an angle? Nope. Yes. But there's still part. What? What part are you? This part, whatever part that is sitting slightly down relative to its matching piece. And that's noticeable. So, sanding for sure, sanding. Okay, and then 56 and 57. 57. Make sure you're aligned correctly. There we go. Ah ha ha ha. Order of operations. Hand mount. Make sure that your hand mount goes in before you put your armor on. Tab and slot. Here we go. And that's going to possibly create an issue. The misalignment here may cause the hand mount to be ever so crooked, ever so slightly crooked. So take time on yours, detail yours. Make sure everything is as good as it can be before making it permanent. Because I don't mind taking time after going back and fixing small things, but you might not. Okay. It's just better to fix them, prevent them than fix them. That's an hour of prevention is worth 3 hours of fixing. Plus all the creative cursing that will be involved when you do. And I have to remind myself when I see things like this that these are not expensive kits. They're harder to get for me as a non-Japanese. But the main market is in Japan. They're 550 yen, so 2 coins now, inflation, which is roughly $5 US. So what you're getting, the quality that you're getting for what you pay is already well above what I would expect out of a $5 toy you get at the convenience store. So even if there are issues, most of the time it's mold issues. Probably some of it's the ABS plastic and rather than the polystyrene. And then the rest of it is just, there's only so much you can do for something at a price point of 550 yen. For reference, that 550 yen is probably, well, back when I lived there, that would be two or three vending machine drinks. 2 or 3 sodas. So it's really next to nothing. Okay, now here, while that dried, there are mold issues that will need to be fixed because they are going to be, did I put that in upside down? No. Because that would mean the gun is like that. That's correct. Okay. So on this one, we're going to have to cut the peg. Where are my clippers? And we're going to glue it. But before we glue it, there are mold defects on this. So make sure to clean those up before you do your gluing. Otherwise you're going to have little circles visible. But be careful, don't remove too much, otherwise your gun's going to not fit. Okay, in this end of the gun, it's going to have to get sanded down a little bit. Dry fit, dry fit, dry fit, try. I think for you, dear viewer, it would be wise to have the gun in already in there, not glued, just in when you're putting this together. Oh, I know what happened. Well, damn it. I was backwards. Somebody was probably screaming at me. And I can't believe that. I can't believe I did that. That's just so boneheaded. Yeah, that's perfect. So disregard everything I just said. Make sure that the little ring is on the outside. Still, it's worth having. It's worth having the gun on the part when you're attaching it. Don't be like me, folks. Don't rush these builds. Okay. Take your time. Respect your artifacts. Love your artifacts. Alright. We're going to let that dry. We still have our little shoulder piece. See what I was saying? This little bit is so much smaller than that. It's better to glue it here than potentially break it there. Alright, now we do the next arm. Okay, and this has a hand to it. So I'm going to just dry fit all of this first. Cement our hand in, tab and slot. We don't have to worry about alignment. And now we're not going to screw up the direction that it's going to go in when we finally put it together. That was really embarrassing, y'all. How many of these have I put together now? 24 plus duplicates. Okay. And that does need. So there's ever so slightly a little bit of extra flash on the edge of this to have some an injection mold. There's a tiny little seam between that doesn't get 100% sealed, so you can get little bits of extra plastic on the side. Boom, just like that. That's lovely. There we go. Nice and snug and secure. Okay. And then 1, 2. Boop. There we go. Gonna trim this peg. There's a little bit of sprue left, so make sure that you clean this peg off well before attaching that. And part 80. Is this correct? Part 81. Okay. And oh yeah. Gap to fill. Which reminds me, I've finally bit the bullet and got myself some black cyanoacrylate glue. It's not one of the hobby branded ones. It's a slightly it's not $5.50 for a third of an ounce. Um, it's better. So we're gonna try one of these with that super glue instead. Probably one of the phase ones. I think I have I've got a duplicate of something fairly basic and robust that I could try it on. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure how well it would work on some of these newer ones. That might maybe on the big parts. But I think I would rather use the extra thin cement on the small stuff. Okay, now the peg tab goes on the outside. Here we go. Just like that. And I just noticed there's a little mold divot, mold circle there too. Okay. Get them aligned the same. Very nice. Now we're going to take our shoulder pegs. And before we do anything, tab on the bottom slot. Okay. And then just try it out like so. Okay, okay. Good. I'm going to bring this tab down a bit. It looked like it was a little long. And there's tiny little detail on this part. So be careful not to ruin with excessive glue. Or if you want to be part of the Society of Hidden Paint, paint it up first before you glue it in. But that may be slightly excessive because you're not going to see much of it. And that, again, they didn't have to do that. Bandai didn't have to get that little bit of detail that you're not going to see because it's going to be hidden by another part. They didn't have to mold that in. It could have just been a peg. But they did. And that's why I admire these things so much. Admire these things and them. Okay. Here we go. Now I'm just going to stick this in the body while it cures. Okay. Now they're safe and secure. That's these steps. Now we have to make the back. I'm not going to make the arms. Excuse me. Yeah, the arms for the beam sabers. So we have the back, and that's parts 2, 3, 7, 9, 8, and 11. And be careful with these blades. There are sprue attachments to them, and they're very thin on one edge, so you could easily warp them. No orders of operations. That's pretty easy. Okay. And because this is the back, I'm going to hit it pretty hard with the glue. Make sure it's secure. And then just pop it in. Just. Here we are. On parts like this, that extra bit of cement, if you're not going to see it, can help to lubricate the parts. A little bit of melt makes a difference, and it relieves some stress. Okay, now 11 goes in like so. Okay. And be careful not to put too much cement in there and fill in some of those lovely, lovely corrugations. Yeah, that's just beautiful. It's almost a shame it has to go on the back. Well, you'll be able to maybe see it. Alright, with all of this detail in these places, this model is absolutely worthy of subassembly and detail painting. All of these little things in here, it's just glorious. Alright, now something to think about. I am going to attach the back, because I'm doing this all in one step. I'm going to put this piece that I've got in my hand here on the torso first before putting those two on. That'll let me have a little bit of extra pressure, and it looks like starting top here, well, maybe. Okay, so slot these lower tabs in slightly. Get them aligned up. And then make sure that your upper tabs are secure, and then push them in. And I'm going to put the cement in the slots and not on the tab parts. That may be a bit much. Okay, and these probably, there we go. Alright, now in this step we're going to go ahead and remove the arms. If I can. Here we go. Yeah, see? That's why. That's what I was afraid of. These connections are so finicky. Okay. But that's nice. Definitely nice. Alright, now put them in, tab slot, just like before. But at this time I'm going to put it on the tabs. And this is an absolute break hazard. The only way it's connecting to the body is by these tiny, tiny little tabs. That's just... If you want to use these as gaming pieces, highly suggest getting some of that clear UV curing resin and reinforcing. Super glue may work too. Liquid super glue, but I think the resin, where you can bulk it up a bit, would be better. Okay, make sure you're flush. There we are. Alright, so we skipped that, went down to there. Now all we have left is the skirt. And that is one big mess of pieces. Now I'm taking the beam sabers out. Can I make it fit there? Yes, I think you can. An intrepid hobbyist should be able to make this work. Snip down here and snip there. You could glue it on into the hand. Or if you want to get extra super fancy, you could probably smooth all this out, trim it off, leave the handle intact, and drill it down. I would be more inclined to try the cut and glue method. arm body. The only smallish part in this is this one here, part 16. So we're not too bad. Now, lesson learned from the Hyakushiki. I am going to look here and see where are you? Here you are. So I'm going to attach attach these parts, this part first. So part 4 to part 10. And careful, careful. Dang it. I just bent one of these little guys. Okay. And there's a lot of mold lines on this part. Clean it carefully. Okay, so now we have parts 15 and 16 and 14. 14, 15, and 16. Alright, now looking at this inset is telling us that this tab on part 16 needs to go to the right. And that is currently facing me. So here's the right. And it has a two-part design tab slot to keep it just right so we don't pull a fill and put it in backwards. Okay, now carefully make sure that you're in there securely. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here's a perfect example of what I was saying before, how they'll mold tabs and slots in different alignments to make sure that you have it correct. The tab for the leg on this side is slightly more this way than the tab on here, and this one's slightly longer. It's just crazy. Okay, now part 15, there's a little tab there, and it also goes towards the front relative. It fits into a slot right there. Ooh, this is tight. That is not wanting to go in. So, stress warning. This is going to be, there we go. That cement helped. Be very careful of the small pieces that can get stressed and broken. So I would even put this part in first. So here's going to be an order of operations for this part. If I can find my pen. No, I can't. Okay. So, order of operations. Part 15 into part 10 first. Second, part 16 into part 10. Part 15, make sure that you may need to sand it down just a tad, depending on the type of cement. If you are push fitting this without glue, absolutely you're going to need to sand that down just a bit so it fits. The cement on there helped lubricate it. Okay, 15 in first, 16 in. Then part 4. And then part 14. And that will minimize your stress and breakage risks. Now, why am I being so insistent on this and doing it this way? Because remember when we did the hyakushiki and had trouble with the skirt? I want to attach this to the body before putting these skirt pieces on. Because their connection points are so, especially these two front ones, are so tiny. It's literally just these little pegs on part 16 with another little peg here. But that's a stress when trying to push, easily broken. And then we can put, so we've got that as group 1. Now we'll put 24, 23, and 20 together. And I can almost guarantee you these pegs are too long. Giving it just a lot of good glue. Yep, slightly too long. Maybe a little bit of cement in some of these areas will help. There's a lot of detail on here that's going to be hard to clean if you don't have a etching tool or spin blade. So just be careful. Alright, and part 20. Now, do I want to put 20 on here right now? Or do I want to wait? I'm actually going to wait for part 20 until we've got it on the body. Because it sticks out, and there's this part here that if your hand slips or you hold it wrong, you could break that off. So we're going to keep that to the side for the moment. And it's going to fit in just like that. Now, part 13 gets attached to... Okay. So now, are we going to have to put that back skirt piece on? Yes, we are. Okay. I'm glad I checked. We've got to put the back skirt piece in part 13 on here before we can attach it to the body. Thankfully, we've got this nice sturdy piece to hold and push on. And we can just slather this thing in cement. Make sure that's nice and secure. Bloop. Just like that. Okay. Now part 13 has this little piece in the front and a slot tab in the back, or vice versa. So the tab is going in the front here. Attach that first and then this. Okay. And that was relatively painless. Okay. Very nice. Now, if you are going to be detailing, now would be a good time to take a break, let everything cure, and go through and fix this, or even better yet, do all that before you put these together. Alright, so we are doing the front two. This is part 28. And 20, 27, 28, 40, and 29. They were so close. Now, I want to compliment Bandai again. Things I've noticed. Okay, that's not correct. All right, so the flat part, this bigger part, quite naturally goes on the bottom, like that. I was going to compliment Bandai that they have done a much better job on this phase of sprue part management. A lot of they've made duplicate sprues for things like arms and legs. So even if there's a part 28, 29, and 40, it's easy to find. They're generally equivalent parts are generally on the duplicate sprue, even if the numbers are pretty far away from each other. So that was a good thing. Because it's easy to get really down on these artifacts at times, and the more English or Western, and let's face it, American content from these that I find, the more criticism and not critique I find. People wanting them to be something they're not taking them at their face value and nature. These are little tiny model kits, delicate, inexpensive, exceptionally well detailed, exceptionally well engineered model kits. They're not the assembled gaming kits. Alright, now we've got our last two parts that need to be assembled. This is 26 and 25, 38 and 39. And how do we tell the difference? The tab and slot. Tab and slot. But that has to go on after you put the legs in. And is there a... There we go. Very nice. Okay. So the open part goes down here and plop. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Bloop. Look at that. And if it's a little bit loose, you've got great lines here. Let it soak and push. And you're attached. Alright, now folks, let's hope everything is cured well enough to do our actual assembly. So our legs first. You know, thinking about it, now that I've gone through this, these parts here, parts 2 and 3, could wait until the very end here. Because if you're holding it to try and get arms in and legs in, I could see that being an easy way to break them off. But legs go in on the separate part. It's just the arms. Look at that. Okay. Well, here's leg number 1, which is this one. Like that. Or big armor out. Big armor out. See, and there's that problem I was talking about earlier when putting this together. And that inhibits makes it harder to get that leg in. Okay, here's a thought. Let me ponder that while I'm doing this real quick. Okay, here's a thought. Back here, once you get parts 15 and 16 in, stop, let them cure completely, and then put the legs on. That'll give you freedom to move them around, take them off again, make any adjustments to the pegs that you might find without stressing these little side parts on part 4 or the skirt or that. So it looks like, let's combine these two parts here. For final assembly, we're going to have to change a few things. First, for safety, put these part 2 and 3 on after you have got the arms and everything in. They slide into the back and they're easy, but you don't really have a good grip, a good safe grip when putting the arms in with these on. Without them, you could really hold on to this tightly there. And then down here, 15 and 16 in, and then your legs, and then parts for 23, 24, and 13. Remember, we still have part 20 that's left off that's going to get glued in this step. Because these are significant stress and break risks when trying to get these legs on. There we go. Okay, good. I'm glad we're doing that now. We're going to let that sit for a minute. Take our arms. Tab on the bottom. Slot. And because I'm doing this way, they're getting glued. And these are a delicate piece. But if you do it carefully, they go in just fine. Peg and slot. Bloop. Look at that. Very nice. And now we go ahead and put these guys on. There's a tab and slot to tell you which way it needs to go. But be careful, be careful. Don't force it. If you're concerned, you may be able to glue it to the leg, depending on how well you've assembled this, how tight your tolerances are and everything. Okay. See, with the way I'm having to hold this, putting that part 20 on would have made things tricky. And without gluing, these are security risk. Okay. That's that. Now we have the fun part. There we are. Okay. Now, because I had difficulty getting part 16 in, one side is a little bit longer than the other. So I'm going to even them out just to be safe. Okay, so put the arms on after doing this. That's not too bad. Okay. There we go. And the skirt touches the legs on my model. So I'm going to add another connection point. And secure them down to the armor. Yep, see? Told you. Let's go ahead and put our feet in. And if you're going to do a subassembly build, put the feet on before you attach the legs. That's really frustrating. Alright, and now part 20. And now we repair the brake. Whether it's luck or by design, anytime one of these parts has broken, it's done so in such a way that it actually it goes back into place exactly how it's meant to be. Okay. There we are. Look at that. That is a thing of beauty. And we're going to let it cure. And I hope I didn't go off frame a whole lot with this. This moved down a bit. And I lost my... Yeah, that may have been just... I may have to build this again. And do that. We will see. But thank you very much for watching. There. Gundam Artifact Phase 25. The O. And Yes. Very nice. Very, very nice kit. Now we're going to let that cure so I can put the ink on it and take the thumbnail and get this video uploaded. If you made it this far to the end, please make sure you have liked, subscribed, hit that notification bell to know when my content is coming out. We're getting close to the end of the build guides for Gundam Artifact Phase 5. We got the Double Zeta next, and then the beast of all beasts, highest part count ever, Silver Bullet Suppressor. Hopefully Double Zeta Gundam will be easier. But comment. Tell me, oh hey, yeah, I saw you making that mistake, or thank you for making that mistake so I didn't. How should I paint this guy up? That's the most important thing, is how should I paint this guy up? Let me know what you think in the comments. And you take care, everybody, and remember that this is a hobby. If it doesn't bring you joy, don't do it. Be good to yourselves, okay? Bye-bye.